Sorry about the interruption. Thanks, Jinkai. Okay, when the regulator is assessing the previous three conditions, what kind of attitude, what kind of stances should it stand? Okay. So these are the principles that the regulator should hold when it is doing the market analysis or the market assessment in the previous slide. Okay, the first one is a forward-looking approach. That means the regulator should not just look at the situation of the current market, but it should try to predict, to foresee what the market will be like in the future. And the second is it should do a structural evaluation of the market. That means it should consider based on the structure of the market. The third stance that the regulator should hold is it should be, the assessment or the analysis should be based on the existing market condition and not a hypothetical market condition. Okay, so when it's evaluating the market situation or when it is predicting the near future development of the market, it should be based on fact, should not based on assumption. Okay? And then the regulator should regard whether the market is prospectively competitive and it should predict whether the lack of competition is durable. Okay, so this kind of all of them and most of them are saying the regulator should not just look at the current situation in the market. It should be, of course, it should look at the situation right now, but it should be like a forward-looking. It should predict the future development of the market. Okay, and the last one, the regulator should expect the market development over a reasonable period. Okay, it's the same idea. Okay, so after the assessment of the market, and the regulator has to find whether there's a S&P in that market. We have somehow talked about this in last week's class. But let's take a more detailed look again about it. Okay, it's not really a definition, but it's kind of a description of S&P. It's in the Article 14, subsection 2 of the Framework Directive. And it says, an undertaking shall be deemed to have significant market power, which is S&P, if either individually or jointly with others, it enjoys a position equivalent to dominance. This is to say, a position of economic strength affording it the power to behave to an appreciable extent independently of competitors, customers, and ultimate consumers. Okay, it's basically saying it has a dominance in the market. And you should also take notice that an S&P can be solely and also jointly. That means a telco, a company can share, not really share, can together pass a SMP with other telcos. Okay, okay. So before the introduction of 2002 telecoms package, if you still remember the timeline. Before the introduction of the 2002 telecoms package, the identification of SMP was a market share over 25% of the market. Okay, so after the introduction of telecoms package 2002, as you can see here, it does not mention market share at all, right? It just use a different description about dominance, about the significant market power, but it does not mention market share. But of course, market share still plays an important role in identifying whether a company has SMP or not. Okay, so in commission's practice, a company is usually regarded as having SMP when it has a market share over 40%. And if a company has a very large market share, say for example, over 50%, there's usually no need of other reinforcement, no other factors needed to establish the dominance of that company. In other words, if a company has a market share over 50%, we can assume it has SMP. Okay? But besides market share, there are some other factors to consider when a regulator is identifying whether a company has SMP. And these, okay, we somehow took a look about these factors in our last class. But let's take a quick review again. Okay, so these factors are mentioned in the 2002 guideline, the legal instrument that we just mentioned when identifying an SMP. Okay, so these are the factors should be considered. The first is the overall size of the undertaking. So the issue, it can be evaluated, for example, by the capital, by the net worth of that company. Okay. The second, and before we go through all of these factors are not cumulative. That means not all these should be met for a company to be regarded to have an SMP. Maybe some of them may not be met, but one of them is quite significant. So that company can still be regarded as having SMP. Okay, so the first one is the overall size of that company. The second is the control of infrastructure, and that infrastructure is not easily duplicated. Okay, so